Time to do Friday business. It takes us 55 minutes around the world of business. That's what we do on Business Incorporated. Today, here's what we have prepared for you. In Nigeria, the cost of governance is still a worrying factor for a lot of people. We'll see how we can cut wastages. Well, in Ghana, after cutting rates for a couple of sittings, inflation is back on the trending wave. Egypt is receiving help from UK. There's a project to enhance local food security. Good afternoon, I'm Mini John Rekwa. This is Business Incorporated. We start from the global space. As usual, gold prices eased on Friday, but hovered around 2,700. That has been the marker for a couple of weeks now, that level, as traders assess the impact of Donald Trump's presidency and its implications for the U.S. interest rate outlook. Take a look at the numbers at this time. We see spot gold is down 0.4%, $2,697.19 per ounce. U.S. gold is unchanged, $2,704.50 per ounce, unchanged for now. U.S. gold futures were $2,704.50, while U.S. dollar index was set for a slight weekly gain after former President Trump's victory. In the long term, it still looks bullish for gold, but in the short term, the prices drop to 2,643. The next levels of support will be around 2,620. And meanwhile, global fiscal backed gold exchange traded funds saw inflows for the sixth straight month in October. And looking at other metals at this time, we see spot silver is down 0.8%. That's $1.75. Platinum is also down 0.2%. $994.80 per ounce, while palladium follows to 0.21%, $1,022.36 per ounce. Still in the global space, let's look at what's going on with oil. Prices fell slightly on Friday as the risk that a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico will affect U.S. oil and gas output. That decline while the market continues to weigh on how the president-elect Donald Trump's policies may affect supplies. The threat, supply in Iran is one. Now look at the numbers at this time. Brent is 0.3% down, $75.35. WTI is on the flip side, $72.01 after it gained 0.5%. Expectations around president-elect in the United States is a major driver of that, and prices corrected on Friday after gaining support on Thursday on expectations that the incoming administration may tighten sanctions on Iran and Venezuelan oil supply. We'll come back home to Nigeria at this time, starting from a conversation that we had this morning as banks continue to face the hurdle in operating electronic channels. The Chief Executive Officer of Precise Financial Systems Limited, Dr. Yele Okeyemi, is asking regulators in the financial sector to weigh in and protect the right of customers. Dr. Okeyemi was a guest on Business Morning and believes that customers should not lose funds because there's an ongoing upgrade of core applications apps in the banks.
So if somebody is trying to transfer 25,000 to her relative who is in critical situation in the hospital, and that's the last 25,000 in the account that this person has. She transfers the money, account debited, the other party didn't receive the money, the relative or the loved one is probably in coma. How do you handle these kind of things? So ordinarily speaking, there should be guardrails that should be provided at the highest levels, at supervisory levels, that ensure that the interests of customers are protected. So, for example, in some countries, in the United States, for example, if I went through my accounts in the US and I saw a transaction that I don't recognize, if I go on the platform and I say I'm disputing that transaction, no questions are asked. I get the credit immediately, while the bank is investigating.
Yeah, so regulators, I guess we're calling on you now. Now, Tinkan Island Command Management, the team of Nigeria's Customs Service, they've hit a new revenue generation record in the command as they made over 1 trillion naira from January till date. The controller of the command, Dara Nadi, explains that a higher percentage of importers are now compliant and fair in their cargo declaration, which yields to a better revenue generation for the command.
We are glad to announce that several of our stakeholders share our vision of voluntary compliance and are supporting our reforms in the command. With the cooperation of this category of stakeholders and a few others who we have encouraged to comply through our enlightenment programs, we are glad to announce that the command as of today, the 7th of November 2024, has generated the sum of 1,046,496,000,000 naira to the Federation account through the custom revenue we generated. The command wishes to celebrate this milestone of collecting over 1 trillion as custom duty, being the first time this has been achieved in the history of Tinkan Island Port Command. I dedicate this achievement to the Comptroller General of Customs, Bashir Adewale Adeni, MFR, and his management team.
Now, financial experts at the 28th Annual Stockbrokers Conference holding in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, notes that despite global economic crisis, Nigeria has a vibrant economy that must be nurtured for exponential growth and tangible prosperity. This is the basis of discussions at the conference, which ends today with the theme Capital Markets as a Catalyst for $1 trillion economy. The agreement is that the capital market plays a pivotal role in achieving this target, but both the public and private sectors at various levels need to harness and mobilize capital for their broad and varying needs.
The objective of this government is to achieve a $1 trillion economy within the next 3 years. And we feel that stock market, capital market, is the most visible avenue to achieve that as it is now.
Technology is always an enabler. And for us at the SSA, it is the prime reason for growth. So you employ technology from different angles. And so what you have seen so far is the use of technology to drive the market, with more investors coming into the market via technology. As you are aware, we just launched the offering platform, that baited and also helped in the offering processes for banks recently, for which over 1.7 trillion naira was raised. That's to tell you what technology does.
The cost and supply of energy to the rail sector remains a challenge, according to the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. This, they say, is the motivation for their Energy Security Summit, which planned to hold in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, later on this month. Members of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria believe that they have explored workable ideas to solve Nigeria's energy deficiency. They are now set to share the findings and collaborate with other stakeholders through the Manufacturers Energy Security Summit.
So what you're trying to do is, one, look at those who have this opportunity to supply to generate power or have excess of power. Get members on the other hand who are in need of that. Bring these two together and create a synergy to work. Any other thing that MPDC can do to ensure this could happen, MPDC will do that within its scope of objectives.
It's intended to serve as a platform for manufacturers and others to discuss and explore sustainable solutions for the industrial growth of the country.
Okay, why don't we look beyond what is in the grid and look at sustainable energy. So we are now advocacy for members to switch or mix the switch. Either you're working with the current fossil fuel where you have source from the grid and generators, and then lace it with solar.
The Manufacturers Energy Security Summit is with the theme Energy Adequacy for Industrial Growth. It's a 3-day event scheduled to hold from November 19.
Thank you so much for joining. And also,
now we move to Kano State, where the governor Abba Yusuf has presented a 549.16 billion naira 2025 budget to the State House of Assembly, prioritizing education, health, and infrastructure. It's dubbed the budget of hope, human capital, and economic development. And the plan directs 57% towards capital projects. That's about 312.63 billion naira, and 43% to recurrent expenditure. That's about 236.53 billion naira, underscoring the administration's commitment to development and growth. In a bold move, education received the largest share of 168.35 billion naira. That's about 31% of the total budget, a record for any single ministry in the state. Health follows with 16.5%, that's 90.6 billion naira, and infrastructure development 12.87%, amounting to about 70.68 billion, and other allocations include governance institutions with 17.53%, security and justice at 4%, agriculture 3.83%, amounting to about 21.04 billion naira. Governor Yusuf has highlighted proposed legislative reforms, including bills for social protection, education trust, security, and civil service, which are aimed at reinforcing governance and supporting long-term growth. The Kano State Assembly is set to begin budget deliberations in the coming weeks. And talking about government right here in Nigeria, let's look at the cost of governance. There's been a lot of rumbling about the president's move, sacking 5 ministers, but swearing in just a couple of days ago 7 ministers, amidst what a lot of people have already called high cost of governance. Let's see, perhaps there are ways that this could have been handled or could be handled differently. And we're doing this with a chartered accountant. Very good with the numbers right there. Joins us virtually from Canada, Sheon Togungbo. He's an accountant and joins us for this conversation. Hi, Sheon. Good afternoon. Hello, Sheon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Great. So tell us your thoughts about this. Of course, the country needs to be governed. And they need to be governed by people who will be paid and all of that. But this talk of cost of governance, are we on the right track, would you say?
Well, thank you for having me. For me to say whether we're on the right track or not, I just want to give you some context. Successive administration in several decades even currently, have always given us different policies or style to say they want to reduce the cost of governance. There was a time that there was austerity measures, during the Shagari regime, Orosanye panel during the Goodluck Jonathan regime. Then during Buhari's regime, there was a time that some department and parastatals were to be merged, but that was dropped, Currently, in the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there was a policy that the number of aides that follow minister, that follow president should be reduced. So we always have action, right? But we don't see result. That has always been the issue, So we take 2 steps forward, then 10 steps backward, because the real masses are not really seeing the effect of, all these policies in their own bottom line. So for me, I would say we are not really on the right track, because the policies are there, but the implementation or seeing in the life of people is what we are not really seeing.
The current reality. But you also have on your slide, you're talking about the myths. Like a lot of people think Nigeria is rich. And I mean, people will argue with you that we are rich, but you think Nigeria is not rich? Shouldn't we look at Nigeria as a rich country?
Yeah, it's a myth that I don't know where we got that mentality from that Nigeria is rich. To say somebody is rich, let me give you an analogy. Somebody that is earning, say, 200,000 naira in a month and has like 10 kids, right? Compared to somebody that is earning 10 million naira in a month and has 2 kids. Nigeria has a very huge population of 200 million people. Our revenue is very, very low, and it doesn't start from now. It has been for years past. So that is why I said Nigeria is not a really rich country, because if you look at the per capita revenue of Nigeria using the federal government budget of like 27 trillion naira divided by 200 million people, you will see that what we actually come, let's say they want to divide that money to each individual in Nigeria, is like 90,000 naira each. So you see that Nigeria is not really rich. If you also compare our budget to other countries that we are benchmarking ourselves with, go and look at the size of their revenue, the size of their budget. We see most of the time it's even times 10 or more than 20 times the size of Nigerian budget. So that's why I said that it is a myth for us to always be saying that Nigeria is rich. Our oil production is less than 1.4 million barrels in a day. Whereas in some other climes that are oil producing, some of them are doing 3 million barrels in a day, that are even having lower population, just like 10% of Nigerian population. You get it? So that's why I said that this concept of saying that Nigeria is rich is a fallacy. Look at our tax collection also, other source of revenue that we have in Nigeria. Collection level in Nigeria is less than maybe probably 5% of people that are paying taxes, among 200 million people. And those who are even paying these taxes are those who are in paid employment that an employer can deduct as source, or those who are engaged in one form of productive engagement that are doing sales and buying that are paying VAT. So that is what gave me the notion that Nigeria is not a really, really rich country, considering our population and the revenue basket that we have.
Yeah, but maybe Sean, the reason why people have that notion, and it seems to have been there like forever, is because we do have the potential to be rich. I mean, once upon a time, our oil production used to hit 2 million barrels a day, so we still have the potentials to do that. But for the leakages, once upon a time, our agriculture used to feed the nation, and our naira used to be strong, almost equal to the strongest currencies in the world. So perhaps that's where the notion is. I guess we should look at how we can go back to those days, or even do better than we were in those days.
When Nigeria, maybe the time we are having 2 million barrels, what was our population then, right? Nigerian population has ballooned over the years, right? In the time when we are having like 2 million barrels per day, not even in the last 8 years, we have not done 2 million barrels per day. So the time we are doing real 2 million barrels per day in the 70s and the early 80s, what was our population? What was our infrastructural need? And most of the infrastructure that were even built during the one era, they have dilapidated. They needed to be, improved upon. New ones needed to be built. If nobody, let's use Lagos as an example. There are just 4 bridges that connect the mainland to the Lagos Island in a 20 million population city. Then look at other states also. Apart from the city capital, the state capital, go to the other area, there is no development. And if you want to say that Nigeria is rich, these are the parameters you want to say that, okay, this country is actually rich because there have been resources to take care of these things. However, I align with some of your comment that there is wastage that is making us to feel that, okay, some of these things are not trickling down, right? But looking at our population, looking at our revenue capacity, Nigeria is not really, really a rich country. Let us be realistic.
All right, let's tell ourselves the truth. And then you also have some facts, the number of elected officials per capita. Could you delve into those numbers?
Say that again.
The facts that you shared, about elected officials, per capita revenue, per capita expenses, and all of that. I wanted you to elaborate on that.
Okay, thank you so much, Amy. Why I show these things is that, when we see the few that are showing flamboyance, extravagance, it makes us want to have the notion that, okay, we are rich. Whereas the total number of elected officials in Nigeria at federal level, state level, and even local government level, they are not up to 15,000 of 200 million population. And when you now see each of these people having 10 cars, having 20 entourage on their convoy, you want to have the perception that, oh, this is a very rich country. But don't go and look at the staff that are working with them. Go and look at their environment. You see that they are even living within the poor community. That's why you see them having several security details following around them, because for every 200 million Nigerians, we have 15,000 that are showing flamboyancy. Now we see like 199 million people that are very poor or that are even struggling to make ends meet or to even cater for their needs. You get what I mean? That is why I put this slide there, that it is the perception that those who are in public office shows, right, that will make us to think, okay, this is a very rich country. That's why I'm showing this thing. And these people that you are seeing that are, showing this extravagance, they are less than 1% of the population. The remaining 99% of the population are struggling to make the ends meet. And this per capita that I show here shows that, looking at 2024 budget of federal government, the per capita revenue of Nigeria over the 200 million people is like 90,000. If you are going to share this 27 trillion expenditure of federal government to each individual in the country, you are going to get 90,000. Can 90,000 sustain anybody in a year? No, it cannot even sustain a family in a week, looking at the current economic realities in Nigeria.
And yet we have a minimum wage that is less than that, Sheon. But talking about those areas of wastages, you have the constituency project allocation, duplication of services, overlapping of functions. And I dare add, that's not right there. But I mean, when you talk of duplication of functions, we would look at not just the federal, but even the state. We have some offices that even the media does not know is in existence, talking about areas of wastages.
Yeah, thank you. Let me start from somewhere. Look at the 36 states in Nigeria. Almost all the states also have a lodge in Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. What does a state need a state lodge for in Abuja? You can use an hotel. That's a wastage, because you have a state house in your state capital, and your area of function is actually in your state. It is not in Abuja. But you see them, it's as if some of these governors live in Abuja. They spend 90% of the time in the Federal Capital Territory. Doing what? That is a wastage. And when they are in those territories that are outside their jurisdiction also, the cost of maintaining them, you see the envoys, the convoys that follow them, the aid that follow them, is a waste. There are some of them that are even permanently located in those jurisdictions that are outside their state capital. That is one waste. You see a state that even the primary schools are not functioning, having 4 universities, and look at the population of this state may not be more than 3 million, right? Instead of us to fund one of the universities and make it to be functional, right, and use the other fund to provide for the primary school. You go to various primary schools in Nigeria, some of them don't even have roof, don't have furniture in their classes. The teachers are not well paid. These are areas that we should channel all those duplication of resources into to make life meaningful to the average Nigerian. Or you see a state that maybe total agricultural production in that place is not even up to $1 million in a year, building an airport for agricultural cargo lifting. We are leaving the substance, and pursuing what is not really the priority as now. First of all, grow your agricultural produce, connect your agricultural production to rail that will link them to the port, where you'll be building airports that are not functional. Instead of us to collaborate among states, you see states like, I don't want to mention some states, each of the states that are less than 100 kilometer distance from each other, everybody is having airports, airport that maybe just once in a week that one aircraft fly into those areas. Those are some of the areas of duplication that we should start looking at. There should be a lot of regional integration. Let's say in the Southwest, aside Lagos, if you think that, okay, you need movement between Ibadan, Oshogbo, Akure, why don't all of them use Ibadan airport, and make it function instead of each state trying to build airport and wasting funds that is not even enough, to take care of the citizens of those states.
All right, Joe. I mean, some strategies there, but I know that a lot of state governors would not agree with you because it's every state government has pride. I have my own airport, we have our universities and all of that, but you are looking at functionality. But thank you so much for sharing these tips with us, the strategies to cut costs. That's the much we can take. Sheon Togumbo is a chartered accountant and joined us this afternoon. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Edie, for having me.
All right. Okay. So today is STEM Day. There's STEM, there's STEAM. The world is changing and things are being added every day. So we used to have the STEM Day. Now we also have STEAM Day, and that's today, November 8th. Let's have a conversation on this now to help us understand the essence of it, but I guess it's not too far away from what you know. It's supposed to be a day to inspire children, explore, pursue their intentions in science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths. So you see, it's a whole lot there. Those fields that dictate the future. So let's talk about this with Dr. Finn Ditimi. He's the principal consultant at F&F Consultancy for the Future. Well, I did say it was talking about the future. Do I say happy STEAM Day or happy STEM Day? Dr. Finn, which one should we use now?
So we can say STEAM because we're trying to be more inclusive. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Great. So, I mean, these are very technological future areas, art, engineering, and all of that. Permit me to be selfish in sub-Saharan Africa and then in Nigeria, we have these as courses in the school, but I wonder how impactful really it is if it's just a course that children have to do, or if we really look into the future as it's supposed to be to prepare the children to create a future that's better than today.
Yes, so STEM is just not about what you learn in school, but your ability to be able to build the needed skill set that the market needs for you to be able to add value to the economy. So ensuring that you have the right roles, the right practical experience, the right knowledge, and the right information to be able to add to the digital economy. Right now, we're seeing that the STEM roles are increasing because in comparison to other roles, right now about 90% of STEM roles are increasing on a day-to-day basis in comparison to only 34% for non-STEM roles. So there's a need to not just get the needed skill set, but have the practical knowledge to contribute. And Africa has been leading in certain areas and also being impactful in collaborating and contributing using STEM knowledge in different fields. And there's a lot of innovations around tech hubs in Africa doing that. We can talk about the mobile banking revolution that has made funds accessible to people. We can talk about the health tech industry where we are able to get mobile medical supplies to remote areas. And even the renewable energy sector, we'll be talking about ensuring that we're able to have off-grid solutions for people to be able to access electricity, and even the agricultural technology sector, making sure we're able to improve supply chains to help farmers to be able to not just access local markets, but global markets. And as we see, of course, there are infrastructural challenges with regards to this, but these are some signals that is showing that there's a promising future for the African continent and Nigeria as the country.
Yes, and sub-Saharan Africa needs about 25 million engineers for the future. The future lies here, but and we have the population. I mean, the world is coming to Africa or seeking Africa when it comes to cheap labor and all of that. But is Africa really positioning itself for the future? We're talking of AI, ICT, and all of that. We need the skills to be developed.
Yes, so I believe Africa is kind of now understanding the value of the digital economy. So if you look around the digital economy and you just think about Africa, it's projected by next year we'll have about, the digital economy in Africa will be about $170 billion. And projected by 2050 is going to be over $700 billion. So we're beginning to see that the world is becoming a smaller place and people are looking to Africa because of our young population. Over 60% of the African population is youths that have the ability to learn and also reskill to be able to contribute to that. And there are multiple roles. About 10 years ago, when I moved into the AI ML space, this wasn't really something that was becoming quite popular, but we're seeing how different industries are becoming impacted by technology. Now technologies are helping them be able to advance, automate, and reduce repetitive tasks, and help them be able to not just export, but collaborate with international partners and businesses. So yes, and also with this young economy, that also makes the rest of the other continent look to us, because right now there's a growth of 70% with regards to STEM roles, which means that there's going to be a shortage, and a lot of first world countries are experiencing this, and they're looking to other areas to help them be able to tap, to fill in the skill gap. And with remote work being available and a growing population even within the African continent of about 70% of people thinking or considering a possibility of working remotely, and over 30% of companies now looking at people working at least once from home, it's now becoming a global market where you can stay anywhere and be able to contribute to the economy anywhere else.
So let's look at the issue of second careers and reskilling, because there's always the conversation of the threats that AI brings to the world. People will lose jobs. I think people have to just up your game, reskill, and all of that. But do we have work schedules, school curriculums that give space for second careers or reskilling in the tech field so that these individuals can be relevant in the future?
So what we're beginning to see is that companies are getting more flexible globally with regards to where they hire, which means that they're looking for places that have the population for them to be able to tap into. And that's where Nigeria and Africa is strategically placed. However, there has to be both a public and private partnership to ensure that we are positioning ourselves to train people for roles that the digital economy needs, like virtual assistants, AI, cybersecurity, data. And that's one area that I'm passionate about within the edtech space. We're looking at working with both the public and private sector to help them unlock these opportunities and set up programs that help us become competitive. Although we understand that there's infrastructural challenges, but we see that there's also opportunities to be able to capitalize on our growing population, reskill people, train people, and ensure that even within the private sector, the public sector, we ensure that even employees are being trained on the needed tools that will help them be able to compete in the global market.
So what would you say are some of the promising tech careers, remote work tech careers, perhaps? Maybe I'll also be looking that way. What are some of those promises?
Yeah, so there are a lot of them, but some of the key ones are virtual assistant. People are looking for people to help them plan, organize, and manage the day. We have project management. We also have digital marketing, social media management. We also have product design. And there are multiple other roles, data analysis, cybersecurity. The world is becoming smaller, which means that people are gathering information and they need to secure it. They need to be able to access it. They need to be able to manage it on a global scale. And these are some of the roles and some of the key things that I see with the African population is that we already have those soft skills that are needed to thrive. In this field, we are able to manage ourselves, we're able to communicate, we're able to engage, we understand the ideology of problem solving. So what is needed now is trainings, knowledge, and practical experience with regards to the tools, with regards to the processes, with regards to the expectations of this role. And we would become a hub, just like many other Asian countries, where companies and organizations are looking to be able to tap into the wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, I guess India is one of those countries that we could learn a whole lot from. But thank you so much, and happy STEAM Day. Dr. Fin Ditimi, Principal Consultant at F&F Consultancy for the Future.
Thanks for having me.
So you may want to maybe go back to our YouTube channel and watch this program again. You want to follow up some of those promising areas. Perhaps you want to upskill or reskill and have a second career. The future is for technology and ICT, so you don't want to be left behind. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll head to the market and other segments of the program awaiting you here in Business Incorporated. Stay with us. Welcome back to Watching Business Incorporated on Channels Television. Who heads to markets now with Will Ibong. Will, what do you have for us? Good afternoon.
Well, let's look at very quickly how the market performed. We'll have a gist much later.
Okay.
So looking at the performance of the African markets at intraday, we saw major stock markets that we track were mixed at intraday. Nigeria's NGX is still bouncing off yesterday's positive close, was trading about 0.4% at intraday. On the flip side, we see South Africa's GSC trading down at intraday, more than 1% there. Elsewhere, Egypt's EGX was closed yesterday, that's Thursday for the week, however, in positive territory, 0.72%, while Kenya's stock market closed Thursday's session in red territory. Bloody week for Kenya's NSE. But let's take a deeper dive now into what's happening at the NGX, and we have Chinazom Izora. She's a senior associate and investment broker over at Parthian Securities Limited. Good afternoon, Chinazom. What stocks are investors trading or fading at intraday that's propping the market up higher today?
Good afternoon, Will. Thank you for having me. So intraday, we did see gains in high cap stocks like Aradel, FBN and UBA are up. So market was positive as of intraday. We also saw a lot of volume in Access, Wando, Sterling, and Fidelity as well.
So let's just look at, you mentioned some banking stocks now. Let's look at two of the remaining out of the fugas. You know, they've been the laggards, but they are back in the game. That's UBA and FBN Holdings. They finally announced their rights issue in view of the bank recapitalization. FBN Holdings coming in to the market at 25 naira per share, and UBA at 35 naira per share. For FBN Holdings, we saw the share price appreciate following that announcement or following the listing of the issue. But for UBA, are we seeing a case of overpricing here?
So it's very interesting, and we've been anticipating these offers to come to market for quite some time. If you recall, FBN had actually given an indicative price earlier in the year, and then since their offer didn't take off as at then, they've now come back with a revised price that is more in line with their current levels in the market. And of course, we're waiting for when UBA has their facts behind the figures. I'm sure they're going to give the market some justification about why they've chosen this price target, because UBA hasn't been at this levels for a while. It's very recently that it entered the 30 levels. But of course, capital raise, capital structure decisions are strategic decisions that organizations make. When UBA made that decision to pay 2 naira interim dividend, we knew that it was in preparation for this offer to come to market. And of course, because it's a rights issue, it's going to be existing shareholders being given this offer. And I believe for the company to have gone with this level of pricing, they must have a lot of confidence in their existing shareholders, and the confidence that those shareholders have in the management and the future prospects for the company. So a lot of times we think of the prices of these offers in terms of their current levels in the market. But in fairness, a lot of these companies think in terms of future value.
What is UBA currently trading now at intraday? We saw it in positive territory, but it's not doing so well. FBN Holdings is still on the uptrend, but can you share with us what the current share price is at right now?
So FBN just a moment ago was trading about 27.60, 27 levels, while UBA was at 32 levels. Of course, FBN has gotten approval. So the FBN offer is currently open and closing December 14th, I think. The UBA offer isn't open just yet. They haven't gotten approval to announce their opening and closing date. And anything can happen in the market. So even though it's not at that level now, it could be there by the time it could be well.
I think we've lost Chinazom. Chinazom, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Chinazom? I think we've lost Chinazom there, technical issues. So far, just still talking about the bank capitalization, the banking sector has raked in about 1.3 Oh, Chinazom, you're back in there. Okay, Chinazom, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so just talking about how much the banking sector has raked in so far, about 1.26 trillion naira. That's about $770 million in capital raise. And that's not very far off now from the $1 trillion.
Yeah.
I think
Yes,
Chinazom.
so besides the fact that the banks have raised so much money so far, if you even look at the financials they've released to the market,
Okay, I think we'd have to end this conversation here. Some technical issues will not let us go any further. Thank you so much, Chinazom Mizora. She's a senior associate and also investment broker at Overparting Securities Limited. Thank you for your time. Now let's look at markets now in the Middle East. It's most major equities there are closed on Thursday for the week, except in the UAE, where we see Dubai and Abu Dhabi trading but in negative territory at intraday 0.11% for Dubai and Abu Dhabi trading 0.13%. And still within the region, we see Saudi and Qatari indexes closed yesterday, but in positive territory. Saudi is up 0.31% and Qatari index 0.22%. Now let's look at US markets now, where markets are closed. The last numbers coming out on Thursday show that stock futures saw a slight gain after both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Composite reached record highs in a post-election rally. Investors are also digesting the latest interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve. And as expected, the Fed announced a 0.25% rate cut. Now, during the press conference, which was held yesterday, the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, expressed optimism about the economy, saying that he's feeling good about it. But let's get a quick summary of how the markets fared from our correspondent, Maria Bird.
The U.S. stock market showed major gains on Thursday, continuing on the Wednesday rally. As the historic U.S. election had a major impact on the U.S. stock market. The Dow Jones was barely changed on Thursday, less than 1 point down, while the S&P 500 was up at 0.74%. The heavy-tech Nasdaq took the highest of the day at 1.51% up. It is clear that many investors are very excited about the upward swing of the U.S. stock market, and also the Federal Reserve made major cuts of 0.25%. This interest rate cut has many investors hopeful that we will see a stabilizing of the U.S. economy over the next few days and weeks ahead.
Thanks, Maria. Now, for now, the markets appear to be reacting positively to both the election results and the Fed's latest move on interest rates. Let's look to Asia now, where we saw a mixed day on Friday. The markets are closed, and this came after the U.S. Fed Reserve cut interest rates by 25 basis points. Now, in Japan, data showed household spending in September declined, but not as much as expected. Spending fell by 1.1%, which was better than the 2.1% drop economists had predicted. Now, Japan's Nikkei 225 gained 0.3% to close the trading session. South Korea's Kospi index dropped, however, 0.14%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng index reversed earlier gains, dropping 1.07%. We also see in mainland China, Shanghai also falling down 0.53%, and the Nifty 50 in India also flying that red flag, was down about 0.2%. China, let's look at what's happening there, has announced a $1.4 trillion package over 5 years, and that's to tackle local government's hidden debt. And this is expected to stir economic growth in the region. Now, this is about the gist I was talking about. Talking about China now. Talking about China. You know that Donald Trump is now back on seat, and we know the trade war that's been happening between the two countries. Now, imagine China bringing this debt package that's just trying to stimulate the economy.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump has, promised them tariffs for exports coming in from China. And right now, people are looking for more stimulus from the government to be able to cushion that effect, because if that happens, the economy is going to suffer. China is really trying to recover from, a fragile economy right now. So it's going to be very tough for China. So what's your take in it?
I guess we just say it's going to be interesting. We've seen China gone down a rough patch before, and they have come out. I mean, remember when the as much as close themselves against the world. And then, because they're also getting hit from Europe, they're getting new taxes and tariffs, stiff tariffs and fines, that's their electric vehicles and all that technology. So, I mean, we know that it's not a very smooth relationship between Donald Trump and China. But, I mean, the stimulus package, on the one hand, has boosted the confidence of some investors, domestic investors, and all of that. So let's see what they have up their sleeves. I'm sure they knew that there was the possibility of having President Trump again in the White House. So it will just be an interesting period, I do believe. They know how to survive with their domestic resources. So let's watch and see.
And definitely we'll be giving our audience the updates and the news, in our various business packages.
But don't forget, Will, that you have Africa to handle.
Of course.
Yeah. So President Trump presidency is not a very good. Well,
let's hope that is good for Africa.
For Africa this time around.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Will. Well, talking of the EU now, EU leaders are gathering in Budapest amid a German government crisis. Remember, their Minister of Finance was sacked 2 days ago following the collapse of Germany's ruling coalition. Let's get more from this perspective now with Chiponda Chimbelu. Chip, DW correspondent, joins us. Hi, Chip. How are EU leaders reacting to this government collapse in Berlin?
Thanks for having me. Well, any EU leaders are meeting for a summit in Budapest, and most of them have expressed little concern publicly about the ongoing government crisis here in Germany. Now, some of those who spoke with DW off the record said that they see this as an opportunity for Germany to move forward with a government that is clear about what it wants to do. Now, the three-party coalition in Berlin sent mixed signals to EU lawmakers, and the bloc wants clear messaging because it may need more collaboration with a Trump administration in Washington as of next year.
So it's no need to ask about the role of Germany in EU. It's a major economy. What would this mean to the EU economy?
Germany is Europe's industrial powerhouse, and it is also the continent's biggest economy. As a result, it is by far the bloc's biggest net contributor, contributing as much as 20 billion euros annually to the EU budget since Brexit. So its political and economic crises are being felt on the continent. The EU wants to see Germany do better, both politically and economically. And of course, this isn't just about the economy, it's also about security in Europe. One of the reasons why the German government collapsed is because there was disagreement over spending and military aid to Ukraine. Now, this is why the idea of early elections is a welcome one for some EU leaders. They know that dealing with a German government that is spending less time holding discussions about urgent decisions may be more effective in the long run. And of course, it would also be essential for putting up a response to anything that the Trump administration may throw at them. That's why how the EU plans to deal with Trump is also being discussed at the summit in Budapest.
All right, so Chip, thank you so much. Let's look at investors now. What are they doing?
Well, European stocks are expected to end the week higher, and that is because they're digesting the US Fed's 0.25% interest rate cut on Thursday. And of course, they're also looking to Beijing, which they expect to announce a major stimulus package to counter the impact of any trade war with the US. But of course, that is not a given. Markets have been repeatedly disappointed by China's stimulus measures. Investors will, of course, be hoping that Trump's win has put the Chinese government under pressure. And of course, here in Europe, all eyes are on Germany. Investors will be hoping that a resolution can be found in Berlin. Now, many German businesses would like to see snap elections held as soon as possible so that there's more clarity about the government and what it can do. Now, the current coalition of Social Democrats and Greens doesn't have a majority and will, of course, need the support of the opposition for any major decisions.
Chip, thank you so much, and do have a great weekend there. Let's come to Africa. We'll start from West Africa. In Ghana, the country's year-on-year inflation rate is up again, rose marginally 22.1% from 21.5% in September. This represents a 0.6% point increase on the inflation rate of that country. Month on month, the country's rate went up to 0.9% in October 2024 from 2.8% in September 2024. And in Egypt, the Ministry of Planning, Economic Development and International Cooperation, Ministry of Agriculture and Land Reclamation, and the British Embassy in Egypt, they've launched a 2-year project titled Enhancing Food Security and Achieving Economic Stability by Supporting Small Wheat Farmers. According to the Planning Ministry, this project represents the first practical implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding signed between Egypt and the UK in October to establish a strategic partnership for sustainable food security in the country. Let's go to the crypto space. We do have some hot stories coming from there. But first of all, we see Bitcoin seems to still enjoying that Trump's win impact or effect. Investors reacting positive, or Bitcoin reacting positively to that. 76,000, above 76,000 is what we see, 1.58% up. Ethereum follows to 2,917.54, is up more than 3%, 3.68% to be precise, BNB, XRP. So it's a Trump presidency impact or effect still going on right there. But let's look at some trending stories or headlines at the crypto space. Now, in Nigeria, a Nigerian court has convicted 2 more cryptocurrency firms for conducting unauthorized USDT to Naira transactions, and they've been ordered to transfer about $30,000 to the federal government. The latest court decision came just a few months after there was another set of crypto firms. The country's anti-graft had also secured a court order to freeze $325,000 held in the accounts of individuals and businesses suspected to be engaging in unauthorized foreign exchange. So it's still a slippery ground for crypto operators or crypto business people in Nigeria. There you have it, $30,000. Then still a headline, but outside Nigeria now, in North America, a CEO of a crypto firm has been kidnapped and held in ransom, and they're asking for $1 million. That's somewhere in North America. The name of the CEO actually is Dean Shoka, in case you know him. Then stable coins in UAE are getting more investors backing. That's the stablecoin stock crypto asset backed by UAE investors. We know that in UAE, I mean, crypto has been introduced into the line of paying salaries and some official movements payment but let's get the views of Olumide Additional on some of these stories. Hi, Olumide. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Great. So I'm sure the biggest story that will catch your attention here would be the one in Nigeria about 2 more firms that are going to have to cough out $30,000 to the government.
Yeah, it's coming as not a surprise because if you look at the body language and the synergy around crypto and its news administration, the language is simple. If you want to deal with Africa's most promising population in terms of crypto adoption, you must be regulated. And you saw the case around Binance. You saw how many crypto exchanges couldn't operate through their internet network, particularly on the web portal, dealing with Nigeria. And a lot of P2P platforms had to close down. So it's just a follow-up. And surprisingly, it seems like it's going to be like what we saw from the President Buhari's, is a continuation of what we saw from the President Buhari's administration, because 3 things is clear. Like I mentioned, regulatory compliance is important. The Tinubu administration is also focused on controlling the financial system. Don't forget that banks are also, you're not allowed to keep dollars outside the banking network, and that will come to effect at the 4th quarter of next year. So USDT plays a key role for many young Nigerians and businesses that don't have access or can't withstand the bureaucratic nature of Nigerian financial system. However, because of the instability of the Naira, which is multi-dimensional, the federal government is really looking at easiest spots to dampen the leakage. So it's not a surprise. But interestingly, Budget CEO, the popular crypto exchange, has stated that Egypt and Nigeria has the highest adoption of Telegram. And if you understand why many people go on Telegram, that has a very strong intricacy in terms of wallet, crypto community. So Nigeria is still really showing that relevance in terms of quantity, not really quality. But with Trump coming to power, I think governments now will look holistically at how the crypto markets will be regulated.
Yeah, well, at least the Nigerian government did let go of the Binance executive, and that would have shown a bit of sign to say, oh, perhaps we're softening our stance.
Yeah, and the thing is just that I think if not for the intervention of the world's most powerful leader, that's Joe Biden, I think would have seen the Binance case go uglier than the way it is. So what is really going out clear is that Nigerians really need to be watchful, especially with the intricacy around the federal government and stable coin. Don't forget that Nigeria is not the only country that has a hostile view towards crypto assets. If you look at the Europeans too, many top European banks like HSBC, PNB, Barclays, they will definitely shut your account if they notice crypto transactions. So stable coin acceptance in traditional finance is still questionable, while Bitcoin, seen as a commodity like gold, has seen high relevance. And that's really why it broke a record on Wednesday when it hit 76,500 with BlackRock posting BlackRock Spot ETF posting the highest amount of trading activity because of 4 billion inflows in that space.
All right, Olumide Additional, thank you so much for your views on the program.
Thank you for having me, Nini.
So that's it on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of this week business shows. We promise to do better next week, but remember that you can always go to our YouTube channel to watch the program whenever you want. Remember today we did share that there must be some skills, some areas for you to upskill, in tech, so that you stay relevant in the working population and the working space. So watch our program on YouTube. I'm Ini John McQuarrie, wishing you a great weekend. Bye-bye.